Right, welcome everybody. This is English 3E. We are doing Unit 1, and this is a review of Class 2 because we had a little bit of a video problem, so I wanted to go back over things. Teacher is Jillian Percy. And these are all the ways I can be reached. Facebook and YouTube is capital G, capital P, ERCY space, capital W, AHSA. My email is jillian.percy@nnecschools.org. These are the studio phone numbers and the WASA phone numbers, and of course our fax machine. Okay, so on Tuesday we read pages 2 and 11 in Making It Work, and we assigned number 1 to 2 on the extra assignment page. I wanted to give an example of a strong answer versus a weak answer. So number 1 says, like, list 5 decisions that you've made in the past year. And then it tells you 5 marks. 5 marks is a key that they're probably looking for 5 sentences, okay? So here the person says, I decided to go to school, get a job, move, paint more. Well, why is this answer weak? First, there's only 4 decisions there. Second, they've kind of just squashed everything into one sentence. I'm looking for 5 sentences. So here's an example of it done more carefully. One major decision I made last year was to move from one city to another. This decision meant I also had to find a new job as well, and I decided to switch to high school. I also decided to buy a new van. We decided to use furniture we found at yard sales to try and save money. I also decided to visit my parents this year over the summer. So I have 5 sentences. I have 5 decisions. There is a small grammar error here that needs to be fixed, but overall, this is a much stronger answer. So as you're doing the assignments, please keep in mind the biggest clue to how many sentences to write would be look at the marks. The marks will give you a really strong clue as to what you should be doing. Okay. In the book, Making It Work, pages 13 to 15 have some information on how to summarize a paragraph. Please do read this. This is kind of my summary of the summary. Paragraphs are the building blocks of many different types of texts. Informational text. Each paragraph is about one main idea or concept. We talked yesterday about hamburger paragraphs. It's just a really neat visual to help you think of things. The topic sentence or the main idea is represented by the bun. Supporting details are all the different bits and pieces that make a hamburger taste good. Lettuce, cheese, bacon, meat patty. You can see there's 4 different toppings here. This is the meat or the heart of your paragraph. And finally, the concluding sentence is the final bun, and is when you kind of wrap up or review everything you've talked about, okay? Questions 2 to 4. These are also from the extra assignment page in Unit 1. These questions are meant to be quick. Just pay attention to how many sentences they suggest for the answer. Which one of your decisions has been the most important to you and why? 3 marks, so please give at least 3 sentences. What is a journey? Give an example. 2 sentences, 2 marks. Why do you think it is important to be prepared for any journey you decide to make? 2 marks, so 1 really detailed sentence or 2 shorter sentences. And here's my own example of a hamburger paragraph. You have to think about a lot of different things when you are deciding to move to a new town or city. That's our topic. First of all, you need to think about why you're moving so you can choose the right place to move to. One important thing to consider is whether you'll be able to find a job that pays enough to live on. Another equally important item to research is whether you can find affordable housing. Sorry, mistake there. You also need to look at transportation. Will you be able to walk most places, or will you need a car? Sometimes people also think about whether you'll be close to family and friends. Taking the time to think about all these decisions will give you a better chance of being happy in your new home. The time will be worth it. So you can see here, this is really my rough copy. I've made a few mistakes. As you read it, sometimes becomes more noticeable. I'm going to kind of change it in red. Another equally important item to research is weather. I'm going to cross that off and over here write the word weather. Can I do it over here? Okay, I can't write it right there. Maybe I could let me do it in, yeah, if I make it really small, we can make this work just to kind of show you um, how to fix things. Okay. Okay. Weather. And I just did it in red so I can see that I need to fix it. If you're using a computer for things, this is one really easy way to make sure. Oops, that's disappeared. That. Awesome. Oh, it doesn't want to let me do it. Hang on, can I? Oh, it just doesn't want to let me do it. Well, I want to show you how to fix it, but I'm having a bit of trouble there. And I apologize. Oh, there we go. Got to fix it. Okay, weather. Okay. Whether you can find affordable housing. You also need to look at transportation. Will you be able to walk most places or will you need a car? Okay, and hang on, I'm gonna draw a little line here because that was just a little bit easier. Okay, so I wouldn't hand in, this is my good copy because obviously I need to do this over nicely. Okay. So there's my topic sentence. Here's my little details. And here is my closing sentence that summarizes. I'm talking about decisions you need to make when you move to a town. And then I reiterate, making all these decisions will give you a better chance of being happy. So this is an example. It's the structure of a paragraph. Okay. They organize here the steps to summarizing a paragraph. First, read the first paragraph in a piece of writing. Step 2, find the main idea, usually in the first sentence. Highlight or underline the main details in the paragraph. Step 3, make point form notes of the hamburger paragraph. The topic sentence, the main details, and the concluding sentence. Step 4, use your point form notes to write a sentence that explains the topic sentence in your own words. Step 5, use your point form notes to write a sentence that explains the important details or facts in the paragraph. Step 6, use your point form notes to write a sentence that explains the concluding sentence. Essentially, we're trying to simplify the paragraph by doing this and trying to capture the most important ideas. The longer and more complicated the paragraph, the more important it can be to summarize it to make sure you really understand it. Okay, so here's an example. We're going to kind of do this one together. Let me just see real quick if I can. Well, let me do that. Okay, nope. All right. Uh, I had done this yesterday, then we had some problems. I'm just going to have to leave that here for right now. Mental illnesses affect 6.7 million Canadians annually, but how prepared are we as a country to support those who are suffering? Despite the fact that we talk now more than ever about mental illness, it is still stigmatized and misunderstood. Considering 6.7 million Canadians suffer from some sort of mental illness each year, why, when we're making so many advances in many ways, do we still prioritize mental illness last when it affects so much of our population? We spoke with Fardos Hosseini, National Director, Research and Policy at the Canadian Mental Health Association, or the CMHA, to understand how widespread mental illness is in Canada and where we as a country need to improve to ensure everyone is getting the help that they deserve. This is an article from the magazine called Canadian Living. Here is the URL in case you wanted to read more. And here are my jot notes. Okay, please ignore this section. It is not related to things at all. Okay. Mental illness is misunderstood and prejudiced. Kind of replace the word stigmatized with prejudiced. It's a little more common word. 6.7 million Canadians have a mental illness. That's an awful lot. Mental health is a low priority. When they said mental illness is prioritized last, that's what they're meaning. Talked to Fardes Hosseini, who is the National Director at Canadian Mental Health Association, to find out how it is affecting Canadians and how can we improve. Everybody deserves help. That's kind of my summary. You might summarize it slightly different. That's fine. We're not going to do everything exactly the same. All right. Then there's a little thing there. Okay. So then I would look at my jot notes, and this is just blank, but I would look at the jot notes that I had, and I would turn the jot notes back into sentences. The reason we're doing this kind of two-step process is it's a lot easier to make sure you're using things in your own words if you're going from your own jot notes, because you've already taken time to figure out what's important, and you've already put it in your words, own words a little bit. Hopefully, that's the plan. So here is my version of my jot notes. In Canada, mental illness is not well understood, and people are prejudiced against it. Although 6.7 million Canadians have a mental illness, helping them is a low priority. The writer talked to Fardos Hosseini, who is the director at the Canadian Mental Health Association. He wanted to find out how far or how much mental illness is affecting Canadians. The writer wants to find out how our services can improve and believes that everyone deserves help. Okay. We are not there yet. Okay. This is what I was looking for. Here we go. Okay. Here is the exercise that you guys need to do. I'm not going to help you with this. I'm just kind of walking you through what you need to do. It's called Do It Yourself on page 13. I want you to use the paragraph on page 15. That way we're all doing the same thing, okay? This is what the paragraph says. The destruction of the wall began in the early evening of Thursday, November 9th, 1989, soon after the first wave of East Berliners burst upon the West. One young man with a knapsack on his back somehow hoisted himself on the wall directly across from the Brandenburg Gate. He sauntered along the top of it, swinging his arms casually at his sides. A new generation of border guards took aim at a new kind of target and fired, but only with power hoses and without much conviction. The conqueror of the wall continued his promenade, soaked to the skin, until at last the guards gave up. Then he lowered his knapsack and poured the water towards the east, in a gesture that seemed to say goodbye to all that. From the article The Berlin Wall Crashes Down by Robert Donatian. Okay, I did want to provide a little tiny bit of backstory in case you weren't aware of the history here. Way back when in Germany, there's a city called Berlin. Berlin was divided by a wall between East Berlin and West Berlin, and they could not cross over. People who attempted to cross over previously got shot. So, however, in this paragraph, you can see things have changed, and rather than shooting someone trying to cross over, they simply used a power hose. This was kind of the beginning of the end of the Berlin Wall. It was later kind of torn down. So we would want to make our jot notes of the topic sentence, the details, and then the closing sentence. And then you would want to go back and turn it into a paragraph of your own. Great. Okay, so that's one of your first activities that you need to work on. Now, next, activities 1 to 3, you need to pick an article from a paper. The article must have a photograph in it to complete the questions. Now, it would be good if the article you picked had a beginning paragraph with multiple sentences, preferably at least 5. And it's possible you may find that in a print newspaper. However, as I was going online to look at the online papers, I noticed something had changed, which is a lot of the online papers printed each sentence separately as if it were its own paragraph. So if you're finding that as you're doing your search, you may need to end up reading like 5 or 6 short paragraphs, these little sentence paragraphs, in order to understand the question. You need to be able to tell me the answers to the important 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Almost any good newspaper story is going to be able to tell you those things. You can use any newspaper. Here are some possible newspapers: the Sioux Bulletin, Wawate News, the Chronicle Journal, Winnipeg Free Press, the Globe and Mail, Toronto Star, or really any other paper that you are aware of. Obviously, you want the article to be school appropriate. Let me just take a quick look here. Okay. Make sure you choose an article that's long enough to be interesting, but not so long that this becomes way too big of a writing project. Um, Activities 1 to 3 altogether are only worth about 25 marks. Um, the last activity is the one where you have to summarize an entire article. So you don't want it to be too short. Like I looked at some of the articles and there were only like 7 or 8 sentences. That isn't really going to be enough to summarize. It's barely a paragraph. So be cautious that it's a little bit longer, but you don't want to do something that's too long pages. It's too much for you to do. The other thing I noticed, a lot of times in the newspapers, they skip a concluding sentence for every paragraph. There might be one at the end of the entire article, but occasionally they skip this as well. Don't be stressed out if you can't find an obvious concluding sentence. We are teaching you about how to summarize a perfect or an ideal paragraph. And in the real world, writers break the rules all the times for all sorts of reasons. So simply choose an article that you feel comfortable summarizing, possibly on a topic that you are already interested in. Okay. Some examples of how to do the choosing process. I'm going to look at a major paper such as Thunder Bay's The Chronicle Journal, just because it'll have a lot of articles. This is the URL if you want to look at things yourself. https:// www.chroniclejournal.com/. When you choose whatever article you do choose, please list the name of what newspaper you used and the name of the article. If you are using an online newspaper, please also include the URL at the top of your assignment so I can see the article that you were looking at, okay? It just makes things a little bit easier. Let me see if I can. Well, oh, hang on a sec. All right, I was hoping I could go over to YouTube real quick, but this is not a live link, and so it didn't let, I'm sorry, not YouTube, but just the internet. Uh, you'll have to take a look. I found as I was looking at the newspapers that right away, there were a bunch at the top that had a photograph with it. Those are great ones to choose, but like I said, check the article length. The other thing to be careful of, especially if you're using a phone, is lots of times there's little ads and there's going to be pictures popping up that aren't related to the article at all. So don't count that as a photograph. The photograph has to be related to the article. So if the article you pick is all about a fishing derby, then the photograph should be of the fishing derby, not some unrelated article about, say, car sales or something, okay? The other thing was we really spent most of the lesson talking about, oops, sorry here, talking about summarizing a paragraph. And then all of a sudden, activity 3 is talking about summarizing an entire article. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. It's really not that much different. I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit so you could see. On page 64 in the textbook called Making It Work, I found an article called Modeling Ads Mislead Youth. And in the blue section is where I summarized the first couple paragraphs. And in the purple section is where I summarized the whole article. So hang on and I'll just kind of read those so you can hear the difference between the two. Okay, the paragraph. Advertising is everywhere, and we often see at least 7,000 messages daily. These messages really affect young people, especially the ones about fashion. It makes young people feel they need to reach the same standard of attractiveness. Sometimes youth may be aware of this and be trying to meet this standard, and other times they may not realize. So that's just paragraph. Now, if we're looking at the whole thing, I'm still using the same summary that I did of the first couple paragraphs, and then I go on to the new part. Deborah Samuel, a top fashion photographer, explains that models can spend hours doing their hair and makeup, and it can take hours to take the perfect photo. Some people feel fashion ads are helping to give young people a poor self-image. Dr. Borens, a psychiatrist, points out that no product can give you happiness. Ms. Samuel thinks that if teens like themselves, then they won't be as influenced by fashion ads. One model, Ms. Gagne, felt that she was more like a product than a human and felt that people expected too much from her. She agrees that fashion ads affect teens and makes them feel unattractive because they don't look like the models in the ads. She feels like this is too much pressure for teens. Okay, so for activity three, make sure you are summarizing the entire article, not just the first paragraph. Okay, so that was, we did Tuesday. That was explanation of how to do Wednesday's activities. And now we're moving on to Thursday's assignments. On Thursday, we're still working out of the textbook called Making It Work. We need to read page 58 to 61, which the article is called How to Write a Paragraph. On page 61, we need to do the Think About It and the Use the Anthology and activity 3. Okay. Right. This talks about the marks. There's no marks for doing the reading, but you're going to need to do the reading to understand things. The first one's only worth 2 marks. Use the anthology is worth 5 marks. Activity 3 is 8 marks. Okay, we talked about this yesterday. The same paragraph that we use to understand, the same hamburger paragraph format that we use to understand how to read a paragraph also helps us how to write a paragraph, right? We write a topic sentence, we write the supporting details, 5 or 6, we write a concluding sentence. Okay. There are 3 main types of paragraphs. Each type has a different purpose and focuses on a different type of writing style, how they write, and a different type of content, what they write about. So a narrative paragraph tells a story. Its focus is on the character, the setting, and the conflict. A descriptive paragraph describes something vividly. It could be a scene, an event, a memory, or a person. The focus here is on using lots of details to create an image of something that you can picture it in your own mind. Expository paragraph explains something. The focus is on giving clear, factual information, and it should include a concluding sentence. So here's some examples. There are some examples in the book. I just wanted to give you some additional examples. This is a narrative paragraph. And again, it could be a fictional paragraph that you made up, or it could be a real paragraph that's explaining an actual event that really occurred. It was the perfect night for his plan. The moon was so bright outside, he wouldn't even need a flashlight. Josh stepped carefully out onto the roof, easing the window shut behind him as quietly as he could. He stepped carefully out over to the side of the house where he had casually leaned a ladder earlier this afternoon. It was easy to swing a leg down and get safely to the ground. He was tired of always being in by the high school curfew of 10 o'clock. Tonight would be full of adventures instead. So you can see it does still have a topic sentence, right? Hang on, I'm going to use a different color. There is still a topic sentence. It was the perfect night for the plan. And then the majority is giving the details, right? The moon is bright. The moon was so bright. He's stepping carefully onto the roof. He's easing the window shut, right? He is going to swing a leg down and get safely to the ground. He was tired of being in by the high school curfew. And then it kind of concludes, tonight would be full of adventures instead. This could be a standalone paragraph, or it could be the first paragraph in a much longer story. Okay. Next, an example of a descriptive paragraph. Remember, the focus for this is describing something really well. It's going to use a lot of adjectives, maybe a lot of rich verbs and possibly adverbs. And the whole idea is to paint a really vivid picture that your reader can just see it in their mind, almost like it was a movie or a photograph. The sun had just started to peek over the horizon. There was still a faint mist in the air, which seemed to glow with the morning light. The trees were partly bare, with so many leaves fallen, but the ones that were left seemed like fiery confetti, red, orange, and yellow leaves, twisting gently in the breeze. Several seagulls were flying overhead, dipping and twisting as if they were dancing in the sky. So I'm not really telling you a story. I'm just trying to describe a picture here. The sun is up. There's mist in the air. It's making everything kind of glow. The trees are bare, but they also have leaves on them. The leaves look like confetti. They're twisting in the breeze. Seagulls are flying. They're dipping. Looks like they're dancing. Again, I'm not really telling you a story. There's no characters. There's no plot. Nothing's really happening. It's just the description. Okay, example of an expository paragraph. Planning a quilt involves a lot of steps. First, you need to pick out a pattern you like. Next, check and make sure it matches your current sewing level. Nothing is more frustrating than picking a pattern that is too hard to finish. Then, think about what color scheme you want to use. Warm autumn colors, icy winter shades, rainbow brights, or muted neutrals. Finally, you need to go pick up some fabric that will match your vision. Don't forget to get some beautiful backing fabric, a nice batting, and some thread. Now that you have all the planning done, you can start actually making the quilt. Now, this one really follows the classic hamburger format, which works really well with expository writing or what they call informational writing. So here's our topic sentence, right? Right here at the beginning. Planning a quilt involves a lot of steps. And then the details are just telling you the different steps. You need to pick out a pattern, check that it matches your current sewing level, um, think about your color scheme, pick up some fabric, make sure you also get backing fabric, batting, and some thread. Those are all your details. And now we're at our closing sentence. And you can see, I'm going to switch colors here just to kind of emphasize. Now that you have all the planning done, you can start actually making the quilt. It kind of echoes or, sorry, repeats the first sentence. Planning a quilt involves a lot of steps. We're talking about planning. You could actually start making the quilt, right? It isn't really giving you new information. It's more summarizing the information you've already given. Okay, so walking through the assignments that we have. Assignments are on page 61 in Making It Work. The first one's called Think About It. In which type of paragraph is it important to use colorful adjectives? In narrative, descriptive, or expository? And then tell me why. Second assignment. This one's called Use the Anthology. And I must confess, I was a little confused at first. They don't mean the anthology that the assignment's in. This is where they want us to use the sister text, the one called The Road Ahead, and do the work from a paragraph in there. Choose a paragraph from our reading anthology textbook called The Road Ahead. State what kind of information does it give you? What kind of paragraph is it? And again, expository, narrative, or descriptive. They give you some possible paragraphs to use. You can choose other ones in there. That's fine. This is just the ones I thought were really useful. Page 115 to 116, there's an article called Rising Threats of Violence in Schools Concern Police. Page 164 to 175, a short story called Walking. On page 37 to 41, there's a nonfiction piece called Boom, Bust, and Echo 2000. Choose only one paragraph from these texts to answer the questions. This is only worth 5 marks. All right, this one is a little longer one. It's got 8 marks. They want you to follow the writing steps on page 58 to 59 in order to write a paragraph on a topic of your choice. Remember the 3 types of paragraphs and how the focus and purpose of each is a little bit different. Remember to check your spelling and use correct punctuation. Okay, hang on. So I'm going to add a little page here, and we are going to kind of walk through. So first thing I would do, let's choose a little stronger color here. First thing I would do is think about what kind of paragraph do I want to write? Do I want to write an informational paragraph? Maybe I explain how to make bannock or how to find the best fish or how to fix a motorbike, whatever you know how to do. Or I could write a descriptive paragraph. I could describe a person I know or my favorite scene or anything that's going to use a lot of adjectives and you're trying to paint a picture, okay? And then narrative. Remember, the narrative can be fiction or it can be nonfiction. It doesn't matter. So if you are great at telling stories, this is your chance to write a little narrative, or maybe you have a favorite memory or story that happened to you that you want to tell about too. So first thing, you got to pick which one. Okay. So I'm going to pick descriptive for right now, and I'm just going to write descriptive here. This is just my little brainstorming sheet, okay? You don't have to do this. I just find sometimes it helps you organize your thoughts a little bit before you get to the actual work, and sometimes that's really helpful. I'm just going to draw some arrows here to give myself an idea. I know I want to make sure I have at least 5 to 6 ideas. So I'm not going to write the whole sentence here. I'm just going to write just like jot notes, right? Just like we did jot notes for summarizing the paragraph. Jot notes can be a great way just to get some ideas down in order to write a paragraph. So for example, I'm going to describe my house, I think. I'm going to pretend that I'm writing to my mom and my dad. They haven't seen my house, so they'd be a good person to kind of practice to. Sometimes it helps to think about your audience, right? You'd probably write a different story about fishing to somebody who knows you than somebody who doesn't. You'd probably explain how to fix a motorcycle different to somebody who's never touched a motorcycle than to somebody who's really familiar. Okay, so I can describe, let me see here. The trees are really lovely. I could describe the outside is gray. I could talk about the back deck and the planters. What else can I talk about? Love the kitchen. I could tell them what I like about the kitchen. The fancy bath upstairs and the big picture window in the front room. Now you can see these aren't sentences. These are just, I'm just kind of writing down some quick notes for what I want to write about. Now I'm going to pull up a new page and use this as the basis of my rough draft. Okay. Okay. So this is my descriptive paragraph. So I'm going to pretend like I'm writing this almost like in a letter or something. That just kind of helps me when I think about what kind of writing would I actually do. Sometimes it's easier to pretend it's something you're really writing. That's sometimes easier than just writing to a teacher, which can seem a little bit intimidating sometimes. Okay, so I can't wait to tell you all about my new house. It is built on the side of a hill and is boring gray. But it is surrounded by beautiful trees. I think here, once you step inside, you see a set of steps upstairs and our dingy, dark basement. If you follow the steps up, you can see our large living room with the beautiful picture window. The kitchen is right next door. And is filled with beautiful, no, beautiful, I used too much, with lovely white cupboards and a modern flat stove. Okay, anytime you write, you're going to want to take a few moments and go back over it. You can see here too, see those red lines? It tells me I spelled that wrong. So taking a quick look at it, beautiful, hang on. There's a U in there, beautiful trees. If I wasn't sure, a lot of computers will have a little spell check. You can just hit the spell check. Looking over this as well, I forgot to make this a capital, so I'm going to fix that. Is there anything else I forgot? Probably would put a comma here because I'm using two adjectives right next to each other, large and living. I've got a comma there, beautiful and picture. Oh, I forgot my comma here, lovely and white. And a modern flat stove. Kind of needs a bit of a concluding sentence. I didn't cover every single idea I had in my jot notes, but it's definitely getting kind of long, so I probably would just think of a concluding sentence and write something down. Um, let's see. I'm excited about telling them the new house. I've told them all the details. How could I wrap this up and kind of echo the beginning where I can't wait to tell you about my new house. Um, hmm. It is the house of our dreams. Okay. It's probably a bit fancy. I don't know that it is, but it gives kind of like a conclusion to the paragraph. Okay. So same thing. Think about your jot notes. Think about how to turn it in. Make sure to check it. Have you got your punctuation? Have you got commas? Did you remember to check your spelling? All those things are important before you hand it in, okay? Now, there is no class tomorrow on Friday. I did want to kind of have you do some work. I hope that's not too intimidating. There's um there's so many assignments. I'm just worried that we're going to get behind. So in the textbook called Making It Work, if you could please read pages 20 to 23, there's an article there called How to Understand and Analyze Poetry. There's a question called Think About It on page 23, which is worth 3 marks. In the textbook called The Road Ahead, which has all our readings, do the exercise on page 4 called Before You Read. It's only worth 2 marks, just a quickie. Write a definition of the words diverged or hence. You can use either an online dictionary or a physical dictionary, does not matter. And then read the poem called The Road Not Taken on page 4 and 5. It's a short little poem. I know this looks like a lot, but it really is just short little questions that won't take you very long to do. Okay. If you haven't started any of your assignments, please take the time to sit down and just kind of try and plow through a whole bunch of them. Once you've done some of the work, it's always easy to go back and kind of fix things up. Some people get really intimidated by a blank page and they get kind of frozen and just afraid to start. Don't let that happen to you, okay? Just find a way to plunge in and write anything because whatever you write is going to be better than a blank page. And once you've seen it, you can always think of ways to make it better. If you are stuck at any point with what to do or how to do this, please, by all means, give me a phone call or send me a note asking me for what to do. Okay. I'm gonna kind of go quickly back here to our assignment sheet. I posted this, I think, on Tuesday, and the reason is I know it does list all the assignments in the study guide, but it kind of spread them across 4 different pages, and I thought that was a little bit hard to understand. So I tried to put it in a little more concise chart so you have a better idea of what you actually need to do. Okay, so this was week 1. We only had 3 days because there was no class on Monday. Most of your assignments are in making it work. We also have the assignments 1 to 4. Um, Understanding how to analyze poetry, then you go to the reader and do it. If you have time, it would be great to look at question number 5, which I believe talks about the meaning of the poem, The Road Not Taken. So, and again, it's just a short little exercise. Don't worry about it. If you have a whole bunch of time on the weekend and you want to work ahead, I'm just going to kind of give you a quick reveal of next week's. On Monday, we're working out of The Road Ahead. Take the time to define the words sacred, enhance, and innovative. Do the before you read on page 6. And then pages 6 to 20 is a little play called Teach Me the Ways of the Sacred Circle. It's really lovely. I think you'll really enjoy it. And then page 20, after you read the assignments number 1 and number 2. All right, that would be a great thing to get ahead of. And then we have some of our other assignments. Friday, where we have the culminating activity, the essay. If you wanted to work ahead and take a look at the writing process to kind of wrap your head around it, you're welcome to do that on the weekend as well. I kind of have been trying to demonstrate it so you can see how it goes and try to show you too, like, I'm not doing everything perfect, right? This isn't like amazing writing. This is just me writing down a quick idea, okay? Sometimes we get all wrapped up in wanting our writing to be perfect, like a novel or something, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be functional, okay? Same thing when I did my paragraph. I made spelling mistakes. I made grammar mistakes. I forgot about punctuation. I forgot about capitalization. Okay? I love English. I love to write. I still made mistakes. It's fine. You just go back and you clean things up. If you want to add more to your writing, you can. If you want to do different words, for example, just looking at this right now, it's like, oh, wait, for some reason I used beautiful here and I used beautiful here. I probably wouldn't want to keep using the same word over and over again. That feels a little bit boring. Um, I might, so here are my beautiful trees. Uh, And beautiful here. Which beautiful do I want to keep? I like the beautiful here. Here just kind of feels pointless. I don't think it'll let me write over it. Had this problem before, didn't we? Will it let me? No. Okay, so I'm gonna oh, what? Oh, it let me cut it. Okay. Instead of beautiful, what could I use? I could use pretty. I could describe the size like it's huge. Um, I'm gonna go with huge. With the huge picture window that lets me see our front yard. Okay, so I just expanded on it. So this is when we're talking about the writing process. Sometimes people think that they have to just get it right first time, everything has to be perfect in their head. And really writing is about just kind of looking at the work and continually making it a little bit better. Okay? Okay. I think we have wrapped everything up. If you need to reach me, I'm gonna just quickly post this again. G Percy Wassa or G Percy Wassa for Facebook or YouTube. I don't have anything up there quite now because I've been having a little bit of a problem with my with the files. I'm hoping to get that sorted out tomorrow. I need admin to help me fix that. Uh, there's my email, jillian.percy@nnecschools.org. There is the studio phone number, which don't do unless I'm broadcasting. The WASA phone number is 1-800-667-3703. If you're in town, you can use 737-1488. You are welcome to fax me your work at 1-800-463-7852, or again, if you're in Sioux Lookout, 737-1732. I do have one or two students have been sending me work already. That is awesome. Please make sure you're enrolled. I know there's a few students who did this course before but didn't quite finish and they're redoing it. That's awesome. But you do have to re-enroll. Otherwise, I have no place to put your marks or put a report card or anything. If you're not sure how to do that, call the WASA office and they will walk you through how to get that done. But it really is pretty important. Thank you so much for working with us today. I hope you are enjoying this course as much as I am, and I will talk to you guys again on Monday.